Sword of Coming Episode 20. In the previous episode, Chen Ping'an continued his journey of understanding the mountain-shaking fist technique under Ning Yao's guidance. He learned that all martial arts are divided into 9 tiers, each more challenging than the last, and that the first 3 tiers, the physique refining tiers, alone could halt the progress of most practitioners. Ning Yao explained the intricacies of each tier, from the clay embryo tier, where one begins to refine their body, to the mercury tier, where qi and blood merge and the true trial begins. As Chen Ping'an pondered these lessons, he recalled memories of Ji Kan and his mother, their struggles in Clay Vase Alley, and the harsh lessons of life that had shaped them. Meanwhile, Ning Yao, frustrated by the difficulty of teaching someone without innate cultivation talent, reluctantly paused their training for the night. At the end of the previous episode, Chen Ping'an left to collect pebbles by the creek, leaving Ning Yao to wrestle with the challenge of teaching, while Qi Jingchun, far away, carefully engraved a seal reflecting calm and enlightenment, silently observing the young duo. What will happen next? Stay tuned. And the story continues. Chen Ping'an felt that if he collected pebbles in the morning in the future, he could start from the blacksmith forge where Lu Shenyang was. He could then continue upstream all the way until he reached the covered bridge. Tonight, he decided to start from a point further upstream than last time. So he would be farther from the covered bridge and the greenstone cliff that people often called the Azure Cow Ridge. That place was where he had encountered the young girl in green during his previous visit. This decision also meant he could avoid running into Song Jixin and the kiln supervision official. On the covered bridge, a plaque hung high above, bearing the words, "Rising winds crashing water." To the casual observer, the man in white wearing a jade belt appeared to be merely the new kiln supervision official. In truth, however, he was the most powerful prince of the Great Li Empire. Following him, Song Jixin arrived at the steps leading up to the bridge. Before coming here, Song Jixin had bathed and changed in the kiln supervision office, and he had attached a scented satchel and a dragon-shaped jade pendant to his waist. The pendant was made of ordinary material, faded and unremarkable, but he had been ordered to remove his superior old dragon Rainbringer jade pendant, which had been a better omen. Song Jixin held 3 incense sticks in his hand, standing at the foot of the steps unsure of what to do. The prince, Song Chongjing, reached over and lightly rubbed his fingers over the incense sticks, which immediately began to smoke. "Kneel down and face the plaque," he said casually. "Kowtow 3 times, and place the incense sticks in the ground. After that, you are done." Though puzzled, Song Jixin followed the instructions. He knelt down, kowtowed 3 times, and placed the incense sticks into the earth. As he performed the ritual, the prince's expression shifted from casual to solemn, a faint flash of hidden loathing appearing as he watched the young boy perform his bows. After finishing, Song Jixin asked, "Is it really okay to offer incense here?" "It is merely a ritual," the man replied with a smile. "So there is no need to overthink it. From now on, you must learn how to handle all kinds of situations. If you fail to do so, the future will overwhelm you." His tone turned serious as he added, "Do not forget this covered bridge. It is the origin of your dynasty." Song Jixin's lips were blue from the chilly spring wind, though he tried to act relaxed. "It's not good to throw these words around casually, right?" he said. The prince laughed heartily, resting one hand on his stomach and the other on his belt. "Here, it does not matter. No one guards the temples, and the wild dogs of the cultivation world are not here to bite. Outside the capital, perhaps I would need to be more careful, but here, I am free." Curious, Song Jixin asked, "Are you afraid of criticism from others?" "I have defeated all opponents and become peerless in the Great Li Empire," the man said, smirking. "If I feared nothing, would I not already be in a more comfortable position than the one on the throne? Does that make sense?" Song Jixin hesitated, then asked, "Are you hiding your abilities, biding your time, or ignoring opponents to appear more important?" Song Chongjing chuckled, pointing at the boy. "You dare to speak such treasonous words. You are far too naive about what is appropriate to say in each situation. Whether you go to the capital or some immortal sect to lie low. Do not speak in such a reckless manner. It will bring disaster upon you. I will keep that in mind. Song Jixin replied with a nod. The prince then gestured to the plaque. Rising winds crashing water. Rising winds crashing water. Tell me, how does the water rise and crash? I don't know, Song Jixin said immediately. Song Chongjing nodded thoughtfully. Knowing is knowing, and not knowing is not knowing. That mindset is wisdom. Intellectuals love to twist everything into layers of complexity. Even when they fart, they write 9-verse poems with 18 twists. He softened slightly as he looked at the boy. In the 3,000-year history of this small town, the water level of this creek has never risen higher than the tip of that rusty sword. No matter how fierce a flood occurs. The old man by the Iron Lock well in Apricot Blossom Alley says that standing under the locust tree is meaningful. Song Jixin said, is there a deeper significance? Song Chongjing pointed toward the mountains where the creek flowed. Snakes have their Dao in the mountains. Rats have theirs in buildings. Rivers and creeks have flood dragons with their own Dao. Many bridges have swords hung beneath them. Copper, peach wood, talisman swords. They can block flood dragons once. If lucky, if improperly placed, they enrage the dragons, causing bridges to collapse, and the sword vanishes. He paused, then said solemnly, only the sword here was not placed for fighting dragons. It seals the exit of the dragon locking well beneath the bridge. It prevents the dragon chi from dissipating too fast, which would destroy this small world. Song Jixin asked directly, did the last true dragon truly die? Song Chongjing chuckled. During that dragon-slaying battle 3,000 years ago, countless cultivators, sages, and sect masters died. Do you think they spared the true dragon like a pet? Perhaps they could not kill it outright. So they used stalling tactics. You are correct, partially. The true dragon is dead, but its identity and significance cannot be summarized as not easy. He continued. All the planning and sacrifice 3,000 years ago ultimately revolved around the characters on this plaque, rising winds crashing water. It was all to prepare for our future adventures to the south. Walking up the steps, he said, if you ask why the sages acted then, it is hard to answer. But why you are here, as a noble prince of the great Li Empire, I can explain some of your questions. Song Jixin remained silent, head lowered, absorbing the words. The man advised him to be tolerant and not let personal feelings lead to conflicts. Even with Lu Shenyang, whose life he had considered taking. He explained that the great Li Empire, long regarded as northern barbarians, had earned respect through power and that Song Jixin should watch out for the embroidered tiger. The imperial preceptor, who played a crucial role in expanding the empire's territory. Another key contributor, less obvious but equally important, was right beside him. Song Jixin shivered, his mind numb, realizing the magnitude of the world around him. He admitted that though he had killing intent toward Lu Shenyang, he never considered him an equal. Song Chongjing inquired if there was a deeper knot in his heart. But the boy remained silent. In the silent depths of the night, another figure walked through the alleys of the small town. A slender young girl with thin clothing passed the Iron Lock well in Apricot Blossom Alley. Her jaw clenched in anger. She viciously kicked a stone pillar before arriving beneath the ancient locust tree. The elderly said the tree had stood for countless years, with branches that never fell on passers-by. The girl ignored these tales and opened the ancient book borrowed from her young master, calling out names as if commanding soldiers. When she became parched, she stopped, holding the book in one hand and pointing at the locust tree with the other. I am giving you face. But you won't accept it? She shouted. She stomped her feet, cursing the 4 families and 10 clans. She demanded leaves from each clan as tribute, threatening that she would punish those who failed to comply. Her anger was sharp, addressing even past grievances, such as Cao Zai's misdeeds or the Xie clan's debts. Qi Jingchun observed silently from a distance, both exasperated and gratified, as locust leaves fell into the book's pages. The young girl paused, sensing something, and turned, but saw no one. She felt a fleeting despondence, quickly shook her head, and pushed the thoughts aside. She turned back to continue viciously scolding the old locust tree. After returning onshore with the bamboo basket on his back, Chen Ping'an started to walk toward the Azure Cow Ridge. Perhaps it was a false impression, but the young boy felt like the water in the creek had lowered a little. As he approached the green stone cliff, he abruptly stopped, his eyes widening at the sight before him. Several people were standing there, bathed in the radiance of a crystal-like white deer that emitted soft, shimmering rays of light, wavered like waterweeds in the gentle creek below. The little girl in a bright red jacket stretched on her tiptoes to touch the deer's antlers. And beside her stood a young man and a young woman in Daoist robes. Their skin almost unnaturally white and translucent, as though carved from the finest porcelain, compared to the villagers, who seemed like clay figures. These two Daoists looked otherworldly, like divine beings who could ascend to the heavens at any moment. Chen Ping'an noticed two other figures slightly further back. One was Master Ruan's daughter, the little girl in green, who now held only a small embroidered handkerchief with a few delicate desserts. Looking hesitant and unsure of which to eat first, beside her stood a man around 30 years old, a sword strapped across his back and a peculiar pendant hanging at his waist. As Chen Ping'an appeared, the group noticed him. The young Daoist nun bent down to the little girl in red, pointing at him and quietly saying something. The little girl's ears perked up, her eyes widened as if recognizing Chen Ping'an. She quickly explained his background to the Daoist nun, who was, it seemed, the owner of the white deer. At that moment, Chen Ping'an realized he recognized the little girl in red. He recalled seeing her before he went to work at the dragon kilns, a wild child running at incredible speed down Clay Vase Alley, holding a paper bird kite, her legs pumping like a gust of wind. He remembered another occasion at the Iron Lock Well, where she had been secretly tossing stones, startled by his presence, only to return for her candied hawthorn stick. Another memory emerged from autumn, when he saw her leaping through overgrown fields, focused entirely on catching crickets, vanishing like a fleeting wind after noticing him. Through Gu Can, Chen Ping'an learned she belonged to the Li clan on Fortune Street. Despite her noble lineage, she wandered freely, a wild child who often struggled to catch fish but managed to seize a single crab, even showing off the claw-pinched finger proudly to Gu Can. The handsome young man in Daoist robes glanced at the white deer and spoke to the Daoist nun. He Xiaoliang, cautioning her about pampering it too much. We are only here for fewer than 10 days. A simple camouflage would have sufficed. Yet now we've been discovered by a mere mortal. What are we to do? He Xiaoliang listened to the little girl's explanation of Chen Ping'an and smiled faintly, replying simply, "We will let nature take its course." The young man scrutinized Chen Ping'an carefully, assessing his aura and aptitude. Though skilled in discerning such qualities, he found nothing extraordinary about the young boy in straw sandals and with a bamboo basket. Concluding that Chen Ping'an was not suitable for their sect, he dismissed the idea of recruiting him. The sect they represented was among the top 3 Daoist sects of the Eastern Treasured Vile Continent. The most revered among them. They had been chosen to retrieve a treasure on behalf of the sect and had the rare opportunity to recruit a true disciple as a reward. He Xiaoliang, regarded as number 1 for fated opportunities, valued cultivation of the mind above all, so her decision to let nature take its course indicated she was considering a prospective disciple. As he Xiaoliang led the little girl and the white deer back up the Azure Cow Ridge, Chen Ping'an hesitated. He did not wish to interact with these celestial beings, aware that their whims could decide life or death. Yet he took a few symbolic steps forward, presenting himself with modest decorum. The white deer trotted over, circled him, nudging him before returning to its master, then transformed into a horse before Chen Ping'an's astonished eyes. He Xiaoliang spoke to him, and the little girl translated, saying softly, "Sister, he said that you cherish your fortunes. However, the fate between you is shallow, so you cannot become fellow Daoists." Chen Ping'an, holding his bamboo basket, felt awkward and comical, yet remained respectful. The Daoist nun asked if he knew the secret uses of the pebbles, and Chen Ping'an nodded cautiously, explaining that a Daoist priest had once given him a clue, guiding him to fish and collect pebbles here. He withheld the true identity of the source, aware that it was Ning Yao, not Daoist Lu. He Xiaoliang smiled and reassured him, explaining how junior Uncle Lu had once stayed with their sect, and they juniors had grown familiar with him, hence the honorary title. Feeling at ease, Chen Ping'an retrieved a glossy green pebble, the size of an egg, and offered it to her. The little girl translated, and he Xiaoliang accepted it, promising to pass it on if she encountered Daoist Lu again. Overjoyed, Chen Ping'an offered another pebble, which she accepted graciously. The little girl tugged at her clothes, requesting a pebble too. Chen Ping'an smiled, selecting a lotus pink pebble, smooth and small, pleasing her greatly. She proudly showed off her newly regrown tooth and giggled, and Chen Ping'an promised to catch crickets together next time. After bidding farewell, Chen Ping'an returned to the small town, waving to the little girl and the Daoist nun. Meanwhile, the young Daoist priest, observing from afar, dismissed Chen Ping'an as someone whose shallow fate and limited fortune would prevent great achievements. In contrast, the Daoist nun had been blessed with extraordinary luck, her life accompanied by a white deer and unhindered ascension in cultivation. Destined to face her first real challenge only upon reaching the upper 5 tiers. Elsewhere, a short young boy stood near the water pit under the Azure Cow Ridge, holding a glowing snake gall pebble like a full moon in his hand. Large green and red fish hovered above the creek, seemingly defying the water's surface. Chen Ping'an would have recognized him as Granny Ma's grandson, a boy mistreated by his parents and raised solely by Granny Ma. Though he had been a misfit, even admired by only a few, he now stood confidently, untouched by the world's judgment. The Daoist nun approached a man with a sword, inquiring about Ma Kuxuan, and a tense discussion unfolded regarding disciple selection and the futility of delay. The atmosphere on Azure Cow Ridge became taut with potential conflict, prompting the little girl from the Li clan to hide behind her Daoist sister. Meanwhile, the young girl in green, finishing her dessert, challenged the men around her with biting questions about their father's strength, eliciting calm smiles and measured responses. A barefoot monk stood before the covered bridge, eyes lowered, reciting Amitabha as he observed the incense sticks left by Song Jishin. Meanwhile, the short young boy moved toward the Azure Cow Ridge, glancing at the ethereal Daoists and the stern man with the sword, demanding to learn only the art of killing rather than cultivation. The man proudly affirmed the ferocity of military and swordsmen, while the Daoist nun shook her head, resigned to what had already been set in motion. Finally, when Chen Ping'an arrived at the alley where Lu Shenyang's house was located, he found Mr. Qi standing before the door. Without a word, Shi Jingchun handed him 2 seals, asking him to help Mountain Cliff Academy should it face danger in the future. Chen Ping'an agreed with a single word, "Sure." Shi Jingchun advised him, emphasizing that a noble person should not risk life unnecessarily, and Chen Ping'an responded with a grin, unable to promise otherwise. In the alley, the Confucian sage's movements were extremely proper as he returned the respects. In this episode, we saw Chen Ping'an returning to the Azure Cow Ridge, where he unexpectedly encountered extraordinary Daoists and a radiant white deer, along with the spirited little girl from the Li clan. We watched him navigate this encounter with humility and careful respect, offering pebbles to the Daoist nun and forming a quiet, meaningful connection. At the same time, we learned about the destiny and immense fortune of the young Daoist nun, the challenges of disciple selection, and the tension between powerful sects and ordinary mortals. Finally, Chen Ping'an received the seals from Mr. Qi, committing to help Mountain Cliff Academy if danger arises, showing his determination and willingness to give everything he has. What happens next? Stay tuned for the next episode of Sword of Coming. If you enjoyed this episode or found it interesting, do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get the latest updates on Chen Ping'an's journey. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.